Hello everyone. Welcome to part 3 of my Evergreens Nature's Brush Basics series. And today we're going to be doing this same little evergreen grove with the palette knife. We've got a large palette knife and a small palette knife. You figure out which one works better. If you're going to do some bigger ones, bigger evergreens, the big knife might be your best bet. Feel free to practice with both. That's the whole point here. It's all about practicing, getting these techniques down before you jump into a full painting. So, let me show you here what I do. Is I get a little bit of that mountain mixture. It's got some mountain mix and green in it. I pull it out nice and flat, wipe the knife, then I come straight down and scrape across to get that roll of paint. Now, how much paint is going to be up to you. Sometimes here, I'll tell you what, right at the top of the tree, put the paint on the small edge of the knife. You can have it on the big edge or on the small edge, whichever works for you. And as you're doing this here, you might want to scrape this up and pull it out flat. I get a little roll of paint here, and I'm just going to hold that knife straight in, bring the handle over, and just touch to make my little center line. I find it very important to wipe the knife clean before loading. Okay? So, let's use the small edge of my knife with a little roll of paint on it, and I come up here and I just touch a couple of spots on the line, and I start working my way down. You lose that roll pretty quickly, so get a new roll often. Now, the goal here is just to deposit paint, touching and working from the center out, and just let that paint come off. You're not really trying to move or stretch it. You just touch and let that paint come off. This is even more impressionistic than using the 1-inch brush, but we're just kind of slathering it in the center and working our way out. You can see here I'm loading this knife often. You may need to load a little bit more on the blade for these bigger ones. Look at that. We're just going to slather and make a basic shape here. And I'm picking some up by tapping and just sort of moving it a little bit. You may get a little bit of spread action going here. There we go. Look at my palette there. A lot of pickups there. So just wipe it out. Take your knife, get a little bit of paint. I'm going to try to make a line just by touching and drawing down. As long as you can see the line, that's probably good enough. So, find the angle here. I'm using a little bit more of the point. Touching, touch, 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 touch. Now I'm using the flat part, and I'm just touching and spreading that paint here and there, mostly just touching. Little bit of moving the paint a little bit. If it's all globbed up there, you do gotta give it a little bit of a spread. There we go. Alright. Now, if I'm following my other video, I'm gonna make 3. Just touch, 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 spread, 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 spread. Now, if you're making giant trees, then you're able to use that monster side of your knife here. But all throughout this set of trees, I'm just using the small edge of my large fan brush. Large palette knife. I should Foley that out, huh? There we go. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do a little batch over here. Now, in my other videos, you saw me do upward facing and downward facing trees. Well, sad to say, I'm not doing that here, but I am going to make two different sets of trees. And you'll see in just a moment or two what this second batch is going to be for. Can you guess? It's going to be for winter trees. Even though I'm using a dark color with some green in it, for the purposes of this demo here, the color isn't as important, but I would suggest that you just use some black, maybe with a touch of blue in it. That'll give a more of a sense of cold, wintry trees. Green, if you've noticed here, Bob rarely uses green when he's making winter scenes. It it doesn't really translate too well in most scenes to have green in there, because when you're spreading out and creating your shadows in the snow, it just doesn't work as well aesthetically to have green in the snow rather than the blue for the shadows. But there is a couple of videos where he uses like some yellow ochre up in the sky, and then he mixes with just a touch of Prussian blue and such, and it kind of gives a little bit of a green cast to a winter scene, but not like bold sap green. It just doesn't have a decent effect there. Alright, so there's a couple little batches of evergreens. Let's do our spring summery greens here. I've got my highlight color, which is the liquid white mixed with the cadmium yellow, tinted with the sap green. And it's a thinner mix. So remember, we're sticking paint on top of paint, just giving it these very, very light touches. We don't want to mix these colors together. I just want to sit this paint on top of that thick dark color. A thin paint will stick to a thin paint will stick to a thick paint if you give it just the lightest of touches. Wipe that knife and just let it dance down this tree. Wipe the knife and reload often. If you pick up that dark color, you might have to do it more often than not. And look at that. Take a look back here. I did all my trees. Now, if I want to come back, I see here that it looks better with a little more. So I can always add a little bit more. You know, just move on, go back if you need to. Boy, I put out a lot of paint here for this technique. All this sacrificed for you. There. So I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid white, mix it with the titanium white, spread it out flat, wipe the knife, get a little roll. Let's see if I made it thin enough. So our winter trees have a little bit of a highlight of snow on them. I was picking up a little bit of color, so I'm going to take a little bit more of the liquid white, thin it down a little. The pure liquid white is a little too thin on its own. A little bit of titanium white is too thick on its own, but a little bit of a mixture together is just right. Let it just sort of dance. If it picks up any of that undercolor, you'll know right away. Whoa, see that? Always look. I didn't mean to grab that much. especially for that tiny tree. Just little bumps and skips. You could even add a touch of a cool blue in there, a little bit of phthalo or Prussian blue to give it a little bit of shadow. And I see a spot where it could use just a tad more snowy snow. All right. And there we go. 2 sets of evergreens made with the knife. I hope you guys got something out of this. Forgive my little flubs and verbal mistakes there. Thank you again for checking out part 3. If you like these Nature's Brush Basics videos, tell me what you want to see next. Thank you guys for stopping in. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.